In the ever-changing NBA prospect landscape, gone are the days when college was the only route. We are seeing more and more prospects trying out various avenues to the league, players going overseas, joining the G League, or even taking part in upstart basketball leagues. Amen and Ausar Thompson are some of the trailblazers of the last method. Two uber-athletic, highly rated recruits joining a league like Overtime Elite is certainly a good thing for the league, but has it been a good thing for the Thompsons? What can we say we've learned about them in the past year or so when it comes to their pro prospects? How different are they as prospects? Let's find out. Welcome back to Hoop Hierarchy. This is KC. So Amin and Ausar were born and raised in San Leandro, California. Their older brother Troy played college basketball for Prairie View A&M, and their uncle was an Olympic hurdler for Jamaica. So while gifted when it comes to physical talent, the twins do not rely solely on natural talent for their success. From the beginning, they and their parents have been making decisions with their success in the sport of basketball as a first priority. They were homeschooled as 8th graders to dedicate more time to the sport, and they are known for competing tirelessly with each other with who can make the most shots in a defined period of time, and they have multiple nights literally sleeping in the gym because of how long they have stayed there. They certainly weren't afraid to take bold choices if they believed it could further their success either. From moving to Fort Lauderdale to play for a high school that let them play 1 year early, to making a decision to play for an upstart pro league called Overtime Elite for high school age kids that no top prospect had played for before, these were unconventional avenues, but looking at where they are now, they are knocking on the door of success that they had worked so long and so hard for. So, with that background, let's look into them as prospects and where their pros and cons lie. The first reaction would be that they're almost the same player, but that is not true. Each has their own traits that make them distinctly different as players. So considering all that, let's get right into it. So first and foremost, shooting. This is a trait that is relatively similar in the twins, and one that I think has a chance to make or break how high their ceiling goes. As of now, neither of them are very good at shooting the ball. However, Ausar's shot is in a much better place than Amin's is, in my opinion. Who knows if they'll ever be league average shooters, but Ausar looks like he has been moving in the right direction when it comes to that, and Amin just straight up cannot shoot the ball. His percentages are bad. They haven't really improved that much from his first year in OTE to the second year, and his form is just all out of whack in my opinion. I think his base is too wide, and he doesn't always line up his feet, and his release is really pretty unnatural and awkward looking. This needs to change for him to get a degree of consistency at the pro level. Look at Lonzo, for example. Lonzo's shot form was wild when he first came into the league. He totally revamped it, became a good shooter. Amin may never be classified as good on the shooting front, but he can hopefully get to average with some modifications. The reason Ausar looks better from a shooter's perspective is the improvement that he has made. He was around 22% as a shooter in his first year in OTE, and he got that up to 30% for year 2. Amin didn't improve nearly as much, only shooting 25% on the year for Overtime Elite this year. And along with that, Ausar just has a much better looking shot. It's more consistent. The release looks much more smooth. I think it'll be a lot easier for Ausar to develop his shot than it will be for Amin in the pro game. So when it comes to athleticism, this is a trait that both players have in abundance. The slight edge does go to Amin here, as he has shown a bit more burst on start-stop drives. He appears slightly faster on fast breaks, and he is tested higher on the 2021 Overtime Elite Combine vertical score. His vertical was 44s and Ausar's was 42. There really isn't that much of a necessity to debate the minute details of athleticism. Neither of them lacks in the slightest on the athletic front, and that is the least of things that scouts should have to be concerned about when it comes to them. Both players are insanely athletic, showing off their abilities on a nightly basis when it comes to flashy dunks and fast break showtime type plays. The highlights are what they, and by extension, Overtime Elite's brand, is built off of. They're very fun players to watch, and I think they'll be just the same in the pro game. So on the handling and self-creation front of their games, Amin, being the primary point guard of the two, looks to be a little further along than Ausar in this aspect of his game. What I like here from Amin is how quick his moves are. His crossover happens in an instant and he's at the rim. He has a nice mix of moves that do well to create the space that he needs to get to the rim. When it comes to Ausar, he has a good skill set on this end as well, but really what I want to see from both of them is for them to tighten up their handle a bit. I have just found that they tend to get a little loose with it on occasion, which in turn can cause them to turn it over here and there. The concern here is that with the huge leap in defender quality at the pro level, or at least the NBA level, they may not be ready for that jump in opposing talent, because the guys they're going up against right now are not the quality of defenders they'll be coming up against in the NBA. But I think this is something that could get cleaned up pretty easily for both of them. I think they have the talent in this area, it just needs a little refining. Now in passing, Amin is a great passer. This isn't me trying to hate on Ausar at all, it's just clear watching them play which one is the natural point guard here. Amin has an uncanny ability to find guys when most other players could not. He has the ability to hit pocket passes at a fantastic rate. His vision is phenomenal just from the high amount of look-away passes that he manages to see and connect on. He whips it around the court very accurately, and on his drives, his gravity manages to pull defenders out of position, and he knows where to get the ball almost immediately. I think that this is easily his most pro-ready skill, where Ausar's most pro-ready skill is his defense. Ausar is no slouch on the passing front either. Yes, the ball isn't in his hands as much, so he doesn't have as much of an opportunity to show what he can do on the passing front like Amin does, but that doesn't mean he can't do it. He isn't as flashy, nor does he make as many passes that wow you like Amin does, but he figures to be the type of guy that if he becomes a major off-ball scoring threat in the league, he will have the ability to make the right pass if needed. So on defense, I find there to be a pretty big gulf here when it comes to the current defensive prowess. Amin currently has flashes of being a great defender. Ausar is a great defender now. On Amin's part, he's quick and explosive, as we've already pretty much established, but he's a bit of a ball watcher and he gambles a bit too much too, in my opinion. Generally, these struggles are kind of concerning to me, as this level of competition is not even as high as the college game. These kids are, for the most part, not realistically that great compared to someone they would play in like the G League or the NCAA. Therefore, you would want to see Amin to look more dominant on the defensive end, kind of like what Ausar does. Ausar just sticks to his man like glue, and he does much better, from what I've seen, picking his spot to try to jump the passing lanes. He can pick up both guards and wings and picks players up full court pretty often. His instincts partner really well with his elite athleticism to create a defensive force. Amin has the chance to get there when it comes to that type of elite defending, but he is not as far along as Ausar is as of now. So when it comes to player comparisons, here's what I'm seeing as far as player comparisons for them. Ausar looks like a more athletic, more finesse-based young Jimmy Butler. Defense was his calling card. A really good cutter. Not the best shooter, but at the same time, really good at getting to the rim as a wing. Jimmy ended up becoming a well-rounded multiple-time All-Star. I think whoever drafts Ausar would be ecstatic to get that type of production out of him, all things considered. Even if his ceiling could hypothetically be even higher, I just think this is kind of the prototype of the player that Ausar is looking like. While Amin, I think he comes across more like a bigger but worse shooting John Wall, kind of. The similarities come down to his explosive drives to the rim, creative playmaking, and active hands and aggression on defense. Again, like with the Butler comparison for Ausar, John Wall ended up being a multiple-time All-Star too. This would, again, be a great outcome for Amin, all things considered, because really a guy like John Wall is a guy that really fits in a lot of rosters, even if he's not the guy that puts teams over the top. If Amin ends up like him, then that's great for whatever team that picks him. So in conclusion, I like both of the twins as prospects. They have a lot of traits, especially athletically, that make them incredibly desirable players for the league. The one you take really kind of depends on what you need. It's hard for me to say which of them is the better prospect. I think Ausar is slightly higher floor, but also lower ceiling too. I think, though, that he has an ever so slightly better chance to be a high-level starter than Amin. So I would rank it Ausar 1A, Amin 1B, even if that is a bit against the grain, because you're seeing a lot of people taking Amin higher in the mock drafts. But for me, the first reason that I'm going Ausar, or I would just slightly favor Ausar, is for the defense, as I believe Ausar is the better defender by quite a distance at this point. Amin, like I said, not a bad defender, but he sometimes has flaws that can stick out on the film, while Ausar seems to be a much more solid defensive prospect. And also when it comes to shooting, Ausar is currently a better shooter than Amin, and to me has more potential to become, at the very least, a league average shooter. Amin has the work ethic to pull this off as well, but as of now, he isn't where Ausar is on the shooting front. That being said, as a wing, which Ausar is, you have to be able to shoot the ball relatively well. Point guards who aren't great shooters can mask that by the way they play their game. You have numerous point guards in the league who make up for subpar shooting by other facets of their game. Ausar needs to be a good shooter to hit his best. Well, I think Amin may not need that, but still you don't want to have a guy who isn't a great shooter at the guard position, because really the one thing that scares me, and this is with both of them, they're the exact type of prospect that looks really, really great in the mock draft process, but then it ends up busting. And this has happened in the past. So remember guys like Emmanuel Mudiay and Michael Kidd-Gilchrist? I think that's their floors. Guys who are extreme athletes at the position they play and show success at lower levels of the game, but they lacked any semblance of a shot and they couldn't get past that at the pro level. Guys just knew how to guard them. I'm not predicting that for them. I think it's just an observation that I've made. Even saying I think Ausar is probably a higher floor prospect due to his defense, strides he's made with shooting, and versatility to play off the ball. Both of these guys are boom or bust prospects through and through. In the end though, I would say that if you're a team in the lottery and you need a point guard, assuming Scoot is off the board, Amin is the guy to take, obviously. Ausar, I can't see ever being a point guard. That just isn't his skill set. The next best point guard is someone like Cason Wallace, who I certainly wouldn't take over Amin. When it comes to Ausar, he probably slots in best as a 3, and the top wings you want to take, that's probably a bit more murky. I'd lean Brandon Miller over Ausar, but the conversation then is maybe between him and Cam Whitmore. I think that's a really close one to me. I am very high on Whitmore. So when searching for a 3 in this draft, you really have to consider what traits you want. Astronomical ceiling, but a bit of a project, Ausar leads the way there. But when you're looking for a more ready to play immediately while still having a high ceiling type guy, Miller and Whitmore, I think they edge out Ausar on that end. If I am the one drafting and need is completely out of the question, I would take Ausar over Amin. I think he just fits with more situations, he's more flexible, more likely to be a decent shooter, so on and so forth. Amin scares me a bit more as a prospect for some reason. Can't put my finger on it conclusively, but there are just a couple of traits here or there that I kind of have talked about that give me a little bit of pause when it comes to Amin as a prospect. Though I still think he's extremely high potential. But with that, I come to the conclusion of this video. If you stuck around here to the end, I appreciate it. This channel is growing at a really quick rate, and I have you guys to thank for that, so thank you. I plan on doing one of these player profiles for all the top prospects in the upcoming draft, and then ranking the value of each player where they're being mocked at when the series is done. So with that being said, like and subscribe if you haven't. Whether you agree or disagree, let me know in the comments, and if you have any additional ideas for videos, let me know down in the comments as well. But anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this one.